If you feel broken right now, if you feel like you've lost that edge, your motivation, then I need you to look at this tree. Inside these cells, a miracle is happening. It's called vitrification. At a molecular level, this oak tree has replaced its water with sugar-based chiroprotectants. It has turned its blood into a type of glass. Why? Because if it tried to flow like water in sub-zero temperatures, the ice crystals would rupture the cell membranes and kill it instantly. To survive, it must stop flowing. It must become still. We live in a culture that worships consistency. We're told to grind, to be a machine that produces the same thing every day. But in biology, consistency is a death sentence. If the trees try to grow leaves in winter, they will die. The reason you feel burnt out right now isn't because you're weak. It's because you're a biological organism trying to live in an artificial perpetual summer. You're fighting your own atoms. Let's look at the chemistry of the void that we call winter. When an American black bear hibernates, it enters a state of metabolic suspension, but it's not passive. Inside the bear, a specific metabolic pathway activates to manage urea, the toxic byproduct of protein breakdown. Instead of poisoning the bear, enzymes recycle that nitrogen back into amino acids to repair the muscle tissue. Think about that. The bear rebuilds its own tissues using its own waste. It heals itself using the toxicity of the past year. This is exactly what happens in the human brain during deep rest. We call it the glymphatic system, which is kind of a newer thing in the last decade or so in science. When you deeply rest, when you just relax and just be, your brain cells shrink by 60%. To allow for cerebral spinal fluid to wash away beta amyloid plaques. These are the toxins that your brain accumulates all day during stress and thought. If you skip winter, if you refuse to slow down, you never wash the brain. You just accumulate metabolic trash. That brain fog you feel, that's just accumulated waste. That brain fog you feel, that's a clogged filter. You can't caffeinate your way out of your need for cellular repair. We romanticize spring as gentle. Flowers blooming, birds singing, but scientifically, spring is hydraulic violence. To break a bud dormancy, a tree utilizes turgor pressure. It actively pumps solutes into the cell, drawing water in via osmosis until the internal pressure hits 1 megapascal, which is 145 psi. It takes dangerous levels of tension to break the old self. In In humans, this season correlates with a spike of dopamine and norepinephrine. It manifests as anxiety, as restlessness, of that feeling that you just gotta get moving. But here's the takeaway. If you feel restless in spring, use that. That anxiety is just unspent turgor pressure. Biology is giving you the energy to break your own shell, to launch that business, to break that old relationship, or to start a hike. Safety is the enemy of spring. That bud must break. So you might as well direct it. But you can't launch a rocket without fuel, and your fuel comes from the dirt. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria. It's called the microbiome. And new research suggests that it even has its own circadian rhythms. The mucin-degrading bacteria in your gut fluctuate seasonally based on what the earth provides. When you eat fibrous fruits and roots in the winter, you feed a specific army of microbes that produce short-chain fatty acids, like butyrate. These short-chain fatty acids travel directly to your brain and regulate mood and inflammation. But when you eat processed foods that have no season, you starve those microbes. You break the communication line between the soil and your serotonin receptors. This is important. You're not just eating, you're downloading an update from the environment. Eat the root, eat the fruit, reconnect the line, reconnect with the season. Summer is the season of hyperphagia, the insatiable drive to consume and to produce. In this state, the brain enters transient hyperfrontality. In other words, it temporarily downregulates the prefrontal cortex. You know, the one that's responsible for being your inner critic, or the doubter, or the overthinker. This is now the biology of flow. But why is this important? Well, because you can't be in flow all year round. It's metabolically expensive. But when you're in, don't apologize for the grind. Ride the wave of cortisol and testosterone. Build the house. Write the book. Your body is biologically primed to handle the load right now. Let's not waste this solar peak. But the sun always sets, and as the light fades, the most crucial biological process begins, the audit. Your brain marks unused neural pathways and literally dissolves them. It deletes the memories, habits, and skills that are no longer serving you. The common shrew shrinks its brain mass by about 20% to survive the winter. It's called Dehnel's effect. But you do this too. It's called synaptic pruning. This is the hardest lesson. We want to keep everything, every project, every habit, every friend, but biology requires subtraction. If you try to carry a summer workload into a winter biology, you will collapse. Autophagy or self-eating. Autophagy or self-eating is necessary. You must let parts of your life die so the rest can survive. I don't know about you, but I felt it hard this last fall. I felt it so hard that I was physically trying to go through my belongings to also clean out and get rid of the stuff that no longer serves me. You're a biological system designed to oscillate. We often feel lost because we're not listening to the rhythm. So I have a challenge for you. Stop trying to be consistent. Be the bud, be the bear, be the shrew. Trust your atoms. They know what time it is. Which season are you in?